Recording in progress.
I'm going to have to fix that script. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Jeff Whitgren from the Zoom Test Kitchen, where we meet here every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time to share, to learn some things that are documented, some things that, I won't say a lot of behaviors that probably aren't documented quite so well, but in preparation for meetings we manage, productions we host, and so forth. So we dig in deep on Thursday afternoons as well with Zoom OSC Test Kitchen and dig into some of the more automated tools that help us out a lot as well. So welcome you all out. We've got a few of you in here right now, and we've got Ray, we've got Colin, we've got Joe, and we'll have a few more show up throughout the next 30, 60 minutes. So always fun to get together. Ray, what's going on?
Not much, Jeff. You know, just meeting everybody else's schedule.
Very good. Looks like you got some red out of your camera.
I followed the instructions to the best of my ability. And,
cool.
That's it. I still look healthy, but they're not quite as red.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, there's that blend. It's like, I got to at least show a little blood flowing. Totally get it. Cohen, how are you? 2 days in a row, buddy. Good to see you.
I left and mute, yes. Well, I'm having some difficulties today with my network. Perhaps someone is recognizing it. I'm working on a MacBook Pro M1 silicon chip. And once of a sudden, the network connection is failing. At first, I was thinking it was an error coming out of Zoom. But now I'm thinking it's caused by Big Sur or the M1 system itself. I'm testing it at the moment, but well, it's quite annoying. Yes.
Yeah, no question. Brand new system for you?
Well, I've got this one a couple of months. It's giving an error. Error code 104, 103. So that's the general disconnected error as far as I know. So I'm figuring out it's completely dead after it occurs, so I can't go surfing or whatever. I have to really restart the MacBook. Well, whatever. For the rest, I'm very fine. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, very good. Joe, how are you?
Doing well, sir. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Saw your post the other day and nice tour of your studio and work you're doing and all that. So, way
Yeah,
to go.
I was thinking I need to do something more, put some content out there, get myself out there in the world. I think I'm going to do something I'm going to call the Chill Event 60-second gouges, just 60 seconds of something
Yeah,
every day or so. Just put something out there.
yeah. It's a constant challenge to keep our services and so forth out there and on top of people's minds for sure.
Well, I spent the last couple of days trying to figure out the best way to get multiple cell phone cameras into my production.
Ah,
It's tricky. It's very tricky.
you doing HDMI out of the cell phones or wireless or?
Well, what I tried doing NDI, and I tried doing it several ways, and that's tethering the phones to the network via the USB or the wireless or Ethernet connection. They all every single way, or NDI or SRT. I tried those methods, and HDMI I can figure out how to get HDMI out of an Android, but I don't own an iPhone. I borrowed one for a few seconds and couldn't do it, but it's only a few seconds.
So what kind of mobile phones are you using? Androids?
I have an Android, and that's the one I've been using for testing.
Gotcha.
And so since I don't have an iPhone, I have to borrow one. I haven't done that yet, but in any case, NDI seems to work pretty well. SRT.
Yeah. Well,
But it's really tricky. I wanted to get them all using the Ethernet tethering from the phone, but that was unsuccessful. So, but I can do it with the USB tethering. So that's where I am now.
Very good. Well, one thought that comes to mind, and sometimes it's so straightforward and simple we overlook it because it's a local effort versus like somebody who's far away and you're trying to bring them in. How would you bring me into your vMix if I were to want to connect into one of your productions? You'd use vMix Call.
Right.
And it's exactly what you can do on any mobile device as well.
Right.
Is bring up a browser, hit vMix Call, and away you go. And you may find some pretty good success with that. I know I resorted to that a few weeks ago at an event we had at church, and I for the first time put like a pulpit to audience cam up there, webcam, and I'm used to bringing all my cameras in over the wire.
Yeah.
And I said, no, you know what? I'll bring it over a different wire is all. So I hard cabled it to the network, but ended up vMix calling into, and it worked beautifully. So.
Yeah. So what I like about I've done that too, but I like about the NDI app that you can buy for your phone, $20, is you have pretty decent exposure and zoom control right on the front.
Yeah.
Which you're not going to do very well from the camera end with vMix Call. But those were my thoughts in that, having done it for the last few days.
Yeah. The ultimate, if you had the dongles to get the dongle out to HDMI and had the HDMI feeds, I think the ultimate for smooth control of focus, exposure, color balance, and all that is Filmic Pro. Filmic Pro, have it go out the HDMI, and it's I think it's probably the very best as far as those controls and so forth. It's a great app.
I'll look into that.
Yeah,
Thanks for the guidance.
you betcha. Jonathan Gale, how are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good. You got the, did we post the wrong link the first time and the second one worked, or?
No, I was logged into the wrong account, so then it wasn't authorized to join, so it was, yeah,
Oh, gotcha.
user error.
Gotcha. Yeah, oh, no problem. No problem at all. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
So, what, tell us, not just Jonathan, but anybody as far as what have you been up to? What challenges are you up against? Discussions you may want to have in and around Zoom that we can kind of kick things off and make a go of today. Rather
Well, my
focus
mic's
on
already
your
unmuted. I can
needs.
start.
There you go.
I work for Renewed Vision full time. In my spare time, I work for my church as technical director. Last year, COVID hit, so we started a 24/7 house of prayer using Zoom. It's actually going really well. We have around 2,000 people a week logging into the thing, 168 teams every hour it logs through. We this year decided to start adding some pre-recorded content, so I got to figure out how to have stuff play into Zoom. So like we'll have an hour recording, and then came across Zoom OSC, which is just perfect. So between that and Companion, I've got a ton of triggers, which do everything from power the computer on, join the meeting, play content into ProPresenter, stream it into Zoom, leave the meeting, the works. I'm actually really happy with it.
Now, are you streaming from ProPresenter or using that as a playback tool?
Just using it for playback. I could use VLC, but I know ProPresenter.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think. You work for the company, right?
Yeah.
They have a pretty good stronghold out there, and you know, I mean, I know the one thing that ProPresenter seems to rival in is that the custom outputs, right? And the output that you can go full screen graphic with lyrics on inside, but lower thirds on the outside to the stream, because the stream, you know, you don't need to show, let's say, the band inside with the words. You just want a graphic with the words, but outside you do want to show the band with the same exact words and not have to, you know, double up sources and so forth. And I know a lot of the other products don't. Just haven't been able to kind of pull that off. So that's just one feature, but it's a really strong product. I've seen it a lot.
I'm actually not using the share screen feature. I'm just using it as a siphon output through who made it? A siphon webcam from the guys that made Isadora, Trickotronics. That's it.
Yeah, Trickotronics. Absolutely, that's awesome. Yeah, Siphon's great. And you said you use Zoom OSC. Zoom OSC, Liminal Entertainment Technologies, who made that, also have made Zoom ISO, and Zoom ISO will not only give us isolated video feed outputs of a Zoom participant or more, but it will also, via NDI is the output, but it also supports Siphon with a checkbox. Say, you know, make it a Siphon output also. And yeah, it's faster, higher performance, lower latency, and works fantastic. So with that, let me do that real quick. Let me take and put Ray and Cohen. I don't have these in my Stream Deck at the moment, so I'll just hand pick them. And Jonathan. And then I'll add these. Give me a moment. I'll add these NDI outputs. I got 2 of them already in my vMix. I will take that, for instance. Like, there's Ray and Cohen live, and and then I've got a 4-up that I can put there, but they're not defined yet. So if we were to build that out and go with Ray there, box 2, we'll do colon, and then I need to add 2 more NDI inputs. There we go. Yep. And then finally, let's go with, whoops. There and there. And finally, Jonathan. And we'll go. Oh, wow. What happened there? Something went wrong with my 4 boxes. Oh, I did an overlay. That's why. We'll get this cleaned up. On-the-fly demo is never a great idea.
So what the client says is not going to happen this way during the show?
Yeah, yeah. Good thing none of you are my client, right? You know, otherwise I would have failed miserably. There we go. So, you know, to be able to pluck them out. And so I'm pulling them off of a Mac next to me with Zoom ISO into vMix to 4 inputs to a multi-layer. And then with that, it's pretty easy to, I could check the box over there and say enable siphon, and then it would be available to any application on that machine that can ingest it appropriately, right? And so it's getting a whole lot easier out there to, you know, bring these tools, you know, together and working reliably and the whole bit. So it's good times. What any particular questions, challenges, successes you want to share? I mean, you're welcome to come in and be a know-it-all or be a brand a newbie. You know, I mean, we don't discriminate on who comes in the kitchen and asks or shares. I mean, we're here to learn as much as get rid of some problems.
I would like to learn something about this group HD feature. I've got it enabled by Zoom support, but I can't see any difference in the image quality. So am I doing something wrong? Is it going to work automatically, or?
Yeah, so when you got Group HD enabled, let's take a peek real quick. I'll pull up my account as well. Okay, so we'll let me share this. This is you know, this is the way they, you know, describe it, right? So
Yeah.
so they haven't gotten rid of the very first paragraph, and that is you know, relating to you know, COVID-19 and them having to kind of scale up very quickly, therefore really knock everybody down a notch on resolution. Even though their license says maybe they're entitled to 720, they're going to have 360, and entitled to 1080, they're going to have 720, and so forth. So, so it describes, for the time being, standard video, not HD. So that's the 360 will be activated when 3 or more participants join in a group meeting. And so if you have basically they're saying, hey, if you have a one-on-one meeting with somebody in Zoom, you can have a high resolution meeting. Seven. I mean, in that it aligns with your account. If you're on a pro account, the first entry level, you know, paid account, it'll on a one-on-one it'll be 720. If it's a higher level account than that is entitled to 1080, it'll be 1080. But once you get that 3 or more, then then that will be there. So group HD, it says activate 720. Quality for the active speaker. If you've ever seen, you know, two people next to each other, they kind of bounce back and forth slightly as far as video resolution. They're the ones talking, therefore it's a little clearer, and then it swaps between. And then it says that the 1080 is, you know, available for business and enterprise plans. So did you go through a process to, did they enable 720 for
Yes.
you? Okay. 1080, in fact?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me get into, and I'll schedule a meeting, for instance. And so when you're scheduling a meeting, oh yeah, it's not here. It's in the settings. Sorry about that.
Settings, yeah.
Yep. Don't look too long. You may get a little dizzy trying to chase this text.
I'm sure you went past it quite a while ago.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, there we go. So, so you have it enabled. So, do you see this in your settings cone?
Yes. Yes.
And yet, so you have standard HD at 720 or full HD
Yep.
at 1080.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that's enabled, the toggle, and then the radio button is selected for 1080.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like,
And then,
yeah.
so you see what you need to see. Now, are you talking about meetings or webinars?
Meetings.
Meetings, okay. And then when you go in, there's nothing as far as meetings go for setting anything further there. We'll just scroll through and double check, but there's nothing beyond that. So then my next question would be, what is it that you're doing and witnessing that is telling you that there's no change?
Well, my general opinion is that the quality doesn't change a bit. So, for my feeling, it's the same shitty quality as I was used to. But
So,
this should increase the quality of the image.
well, so let me talk through kind of the whole chain of events and prerequisites and so forth. So let me say this. I am on a 1080 account. We all are on a 1080 account right now, thanks to the DVE store, and I can see that I'm sending, while I talk, I can see that I'm sending 720, and I am receiving 720 from you as well. And so I could be a little upset and say, hey, I've got a 1080 account and I've seen it before, and it's not doing it today. But there's more to the story than that. I'll start with this. I can't make your camera send me 1080 if your camera can't send 1080. That's kind of like, that's the hard beginning fact. Like, the equipment that's sending has to have the capability, the camera itself. You know, if you're on a webcam that, you know, is at 576 or something like that, you'll be limited. You can't turn, you know, something into something different. I have a 1080 capable camera, and you have to have the bandwidth available, and you have to have the core processors in your computer that pass the test with Zoom to be able to fulfill that 1080 request as well. That's just all on the sender side of things. I meet all those specs, and I'm still only sending 720. So if somebody in the meeting here will, well, and let me answer real quickly. How do I know that? If I share my screen here, you'll see that I've pulled up on the top left green shield. I've gone to the gear icon to access the statistics, and the statistics page provides us the overall statistics as far as CPU usage, the memory usage, bandwidth on the send and the receive side. So if you want to know how much consumption there is, the bandwidth is there as well. What kind of network? I'm not on wireless, I'm wired, and what version and so forth. The audio, it breaks the audio down. I'm sending, it was 48 kilohertz, and then the receive side, and then the same thing with video. So this is where I've been looking to know that I'm sending 720 at about 30 frames a second, and I'm receiving that as well. And then when there's a screen share, you go to the screen share tab. I'm sharing right now. I'm actually sharing at a whopping 2560 by 1440 because I have a 2K monitor. I'm sharing the whole screen, and it shares the native resolution even on the lowest of accounts. And usually the frame rate's not great, but our frame rate is pretty decent, I think, because it's on an enterprise account, which makes some exception to that, I believe. But it is there in its native resolution. If I were to share, I'll do it. I'll stop my share and I'll share again. But this time I tell it to share optimized for a video clip. Now when I share, look at what it did to my share, and they called that optimizing it. So so don't assume that optimize means to make it better necessarily, or don't assume your definition of better is their definition of better. You know, it might be a better way to put it. Better, as far as optimized, is optimized for kind of this balance between good visual and efficient bandwidth usage. So it's a whole lot more efficient right now not to send 1440p from my 2K monitor than to send 720, which it's doing now because I optimized the share. And so it's more efficient on the bandwidth, and you can still see and read the screen pretty clearly, I would guess, as well. Would you agree? And so now it's truly optimized. So take a look now, and I'm going to do the same thing. So in overall, my bandwidth send right now is about 3600K. Pop to 4,000. Okay, so I'm gonna kill the share, and I'm going to reshare unoptimized, and now we'll reshare and see if how much of a difference the optimization made. So we're at the high resolution, and then the bandwidth. I don't actually see a big difference. It's actually a little bit lower now than it was before, but it's also a somewhat static page as well versus like a video or something thereabouts. But under circumstances of a lot of changing pixels and so forth, it can certainly make a difference. So here's the other thing. I have a PC, bandwidth, and camera that are all fully capable of sending 1080, and so then well, why wouldn't you be getting 1080 or sending 1080? and that has everything to do with there's nobody in this meeting requiring it. So why gather it? This is the server talking, Zoom server talking. Why gather it if I have nobody to send it to, right? And so if one of you who has, a 2 or a 4K monitor or something will pop my, just pin me to be full screen, if you'll do that right now, somebody, we should in fact see the resolution, my send resolution change, because the requirement in this meeting will become present. So who has done that? Oh, let me stop the share. That definitely makes a difference. And so I'll stop the share and watch my video only. I'll tell you if it changes.
I pinned you.
You pinned me?
I pinned you too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Right now I'm not seeing a pop yet. But, and let me make sure I have a receive of 1080. And I have seen these stat numbers get wonky backwards. Like right now it's 1080 and I'm the one talking, but it's my 1080 receive, which is kind of strange. Who else on this call can send 1080, who has a 1080 camera? Any of you have a 1080 camera?
I can send you 1080.
Okay, let's try that. I want to see if these numbers are messing with us a little bit.
Let me just check that I'm actually set up for 1080. There we go. I think my camera's 720, but I've got piped into ProPresenter and sending you 1080.
Sending at 1080.
Yep.
So yeah, there we go. Yeah, see these numbers. I'm not sure what causes this, but my receive just popped to 1080, but yet I'm the one talking, and that's when it pops. It's kind of strange, but it's quite dynamic, and so I would say, Cohen, if you know you've got the account, you've got that enabled, and you're in a meeting. If you and me were on the meeting, let's say 4 of us were on the meeting, and we were all looking at the gallery view, I can promise you no one's going to see 1080 because the picture's too small. You don't even have that many pixels. You know what I'm saying? But if somebody pins you or you spotlight yourself, and you have a camera, like if you don't have a camera here, it doesn't look like that has the capability of sending 1080. Therefore, you'll never see yourself send 1080, no matter what the demand on the meeting is. And so I would say, first thing, get the equipment that has the capability of delivering it, and then next to that. Then the test. Give me just a second. I've got somebody trying to join, and
Yeah, Sarah's having trouble connecting.
yeah.
For some reason, she's made a number of attempts. I've clicked to let her in, but I can't even communicate with her by text.
Yeah, she's on Slack right now, so I just given her some ideas to try that.
I should have checked there.
Let's see if we can get her in. Okay, sorry for the silence, but I don't like it when people are trying and having issues getting in. Thanks for managing that waiting room, Ray. So some guidelines, are that it. As a matter of fact, we will often go and do this friendly example. Let me change the wallpaper of my desktop and share with you the dynamic decision making that that Zoom makes for us. So that's my desktop with some outlines for resolution size, right? And so what I'm going to do, I've got Ray framed up in my second Zoom window, and so I'm going to hit that top border, the left border, all within that 360, which is the red. So if I stay just inside that red, and then I pull up my statistics I'll pull those into the share. If Ray, if you'll go ahead and talk.
I can do that. I am currently in the tiny box where I've been put because of bad behavior.
And you're coming in to me at 360. And you can all do this on your own laptop because these stats are very personalized between you and the Zoom server. Yours may be different than mine. And so, Ray, continue to talk as I stretch your window out.
I'm happy to continue to talk as you stretch my window out. Will I feel it? Will there be any side effects of this?
As I crossed that border, it popped from 360 up till, go ahead and talk one more time. I
feel bigger. I feel stronger.
Yeah. So I think the stat numbers just went backwards on me but you did. I think you're on the send now for some reason. But you popped up to 720 and now mine is at 1080. But your 720 is your max capability, right?
I think so.
On your camera, mine's 1080. It should be in the different columns. Mine should be in the send and yours on the receive. But it dynamically makes those choices and decisions on the fly based on the demand that's in the meeting per individual attendee. And so I may be the primary speaker and presenter. I have everything capable of 1080, but if the entire audience, it doesn't matter whether there's 10 people or 1,000 people in the room, if they're all looking at their gallery view, I won't be sending 1080. There's nobody requiring it of me. But when one person then either pins me or the moderator of the meeting spotlights me and makes me large on people's screen, then all of a sudden it'll pop and take advantage of that upper threshold of your account's resolution. That's what I say is it won't go to 1080 on any account meeting these requirements. It's like I'll go to your highest level per your subscription that I can. And so that what happens at that point is the Zoom server up there in the cloud is saying, hey Jeff, I know you're capable of 1080, but I haven't been asking you for it, but there's somebody out here who needs it, therefore start sending me 1080. And so it's got it, and then it starts sending it out to that individual or those individuals who have that particular demand. And the moment that demand diminishes, it changes it. It may still keep gathering it from me, but if 2 of those 10 people, shrunk their windows, then those 2 will not get it any longer, but the other 8 will. And it's just very dynamic throughout the entire meeting. Does that help a bit, Cohen?
Yes. What will happen when other people have fewer bandwidth than I have?
Yeah, everybody's treated independently. There is, I think it's on webinar that if you now, I would guess that your 1080 is good for meetings and panelists within webinar, but an HD enablement does not naturally get out to attendees in webinars. Like, it never naturally occurs. And so with that, that's a separate request. If you did webinars and you were hosting webinars, you'd have to put in a different request to Zoom to ask them for full HD for webinar attendees, and that's a separate whitelisting approval that you would go through with them. Otherwise webinar attendees are going to get 360. Even though your panelists and yourself will get 1080, your attendees will only get 360 without that final approval as well. So
can you elaborate on how to get them to upgrade it? Because we run webinars.
You what?
We run webinars.
Run webinars. Yeah, webinars naturally defaults to 360 to attendees, and so you have to write go to support inside your account and make a formal request. And and it's not, you know, and say it's not hey, can you enable this? It's, you know, we've got this type of event, we commonly cater to these types of customers. You know, it has to commonly, I believe it has to have some descriptive justification that, and they evaluate it against that, whether it's, you know, big names or big education or political, you know, groups that you're, you know, catering to, or, you know, maybe, you know, if it's the company account, Jonathan, you know, maybe it's some mega churches. I don't know, you know, I mean, just like there's things that make a difference. I don't know what the magic is necessarily. And I don't want to be assumptive. I don't know if it's getting any easier at this point yet, you know, this many months later, you know, where they've had time to scale up and so forth. But I would justify it with maybe frequency and event type that you guys are hosting,
Okay.
versus just a personal desire.
Probably account type too.
Oh,
Like
it
enterprise,
absolutely,
ways,
yeah. Enterprise will get 1080. So Pro, let's see. Pro is naturally entitled to 720, and I believe business and enterprise are naturally entitled to 1080, but they get knocked down to 720. And so the request for a simple Pro account to get to 720 is really equivalent to the request for a business or enterprise to get to 1080. But you know, when you're on a business or enterprise account, you have an account rep assigned to you that you can just reach out to and put in the request. And so if you have a business or enterprise account, that will be, I would say it's probably safe to assume it'd be a bit easier to get that accomplished, because your money out of pocket to just be there at that license, you know.
So thanks for the info. I'll hit them up.
Yeah, give it a shot.
So I have a question, because related to the webinars, and let's say we're at 720 and you're trying to push something out using vMix, or you're going to have slides and video with the slides and a side-by-side player. How's that going to look?
720, I think, is pretty acceptable. I do. If you use the well, here, let's do this. Let's just use an example. It's not, you can't knock a whole meeting down. Like, we're in a meeting right now that's capable of 1080, right? And so it'll get 1080. But if I, for an example, if I share a video and use the Zoom video player under the advanced share tab, if I do that, give me a second here.
And by the way, Jeff, hello. I didn't even say hello.
Hello, Bill. I don't know. I didn't even feel like we ever really stopped talking and chatting since yesterday. So, no, good to see you again. Let me see. Oh, that's music. I need videos. Videos. I'm just trying to find this one that my son, that I just...
So what I've noticed
video
is when you're playing back video, it looks okay. But if I'm doing like slides with a video inset, then it doesn't look so good. The slides don't look good.
At 720. Well, we can test both. That's what this is all about. So,
well, let's see him play. Let's see him play.
You see this. So this now. Bring up your statistics on your Zoom, so that you can, in fact, see and help us understand. I've got some other systems here. Bear with me. I want to bring up stats as well to confirm that it's going to receive, because the experience is when you're sharing with the video optimize. Now the video player, the share video player that's built into Zoom, it naturally selects the optimize checkboxes. And when it does, it'll take this 1080 video and knock it down to 720 for kind of best performance acceptable video delivery as well, or resolution. So I'm receiving 720 at 30. Anybody else seeing much different than that? 720 at about 30 frames.
Yeah, I got 720p.
Okay, and how does it look? Even if you full screen it, how does it look?
It looks good.
Yeah. Okay. And now what I'll do is I'll kill this share, and I'll share it again, but I'm going to uncheck the optimize, which it likes to do automatically because of this player. And it's a good choice. It's really a good choice to do, but we'll not optimize it this time.
Change your
Now
battery
you're
pack.
seeing the raw footage, right, at 1080. Did you get 1080?
Yeah, I'm getting 1080.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is it startlingly different? Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it could look that good, or is it close enough to being pretty acceptable even at the compared to the 720?
It looks better.
It looks better, but it's not a deal breaker. The 720 wasn't. Looked good too.
So on your stats now, instead of tracking the share resolution, go over to the overall tab and watch your ingestible, your inbound bandwidth. Okay, I'll leave it here at the 1080. Measure that bandwidth. What are people ingesting at? How many megs a second?
Mine was at 1300, but I'm noticing my receive is like 1 frame per second for the screen share. I don't know if that's because you're not actually playing the video.
I am playing the video.
Well, my video frame is not updating. What do you think of that?
Mine
No,
neither.
we're
My,
not seeing the video.
I'm here.
and my stats are lying to me because I'm at 180.
Here, let me restart this share.
Now you're looking very blue, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on with that camera.
Your battery died. You had a
Yes.
battery. You had a battery warning show up, and then it went blank.
Yeah, every once in a while. So I'm not on an actual battery. I'm on a dummy battery on my Canon camera, and every once in a while, the power block, I have to unplug it like once every 2 months. It's really strange. So I'll fix that in just a moment. So I'm going to play this again and see if that'll reset.
Up to 3253.
Mine's around 25.
So I've got this system sitting next to me that's requiring about 5 to 6 meg a second. How about you guys?
Mine's jumping from 1300 down to 300. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm like 600 receive right now, but
Now,
it was
so
around
how
1300.
big was the window? How big was your share window of you viewing that, Bill?
I maximized it.
You did maximize it? Okay.
And I think I saw a late statistic, so
Okay.
before
now
it was around 1300.
I'm going to optimize that video via Zoom's share, right? And that was unoptimized. So that was 1080 down. And now I'm going to share it optimized, which is 720.
I'm getting 1280 by 720.
And that's the resolution. Did you happen to look at your bandwidth change as well?
The highest one that was 7 megs per second.
So What was the first one?
Oh, around 1300.
1300 versus 7 meg.
Yeah.
I got 3 meg on the 720p, and what the most startling bit is that the frame rate went higher. It actually, I thought it looked better on 720 because the motion was smoother.
Yeah. Yeah, because the motion with the built-in video player, using that as the share device, the most common results I get, and I can expect is 720 if it's optimized, 720p by about 25 frames a second, which is perfectly acceptable on a video. Now we can also let me go reset my camera power box real quickly so I can get back on camera, and you guys talk amongst yourself, and then I'll build a quick slide. And Bill, be prepared to tell me kind of how much content to put there for size of text, because that makes a difference, right? If somebody loads up a single slide with too much text, no one's going to be able to read it at all. But let me know. I'll be right back. It won't take but a second.
Anyone know how Zoom ISO affects this? I mean, if Zoom ISO is trying to pull everything in 1080, that would be significant.
When you're thinking how much bandwidth
Yeah.
it's going to need, Jeff will probably have a good answer to that. I feel like I heard like 5 megs per 1080.
Okay.
Don't know if that's accurate.
Okay. Also, Jeff, if you need some help with slides there, I've already got ProPresenter running.
Okay, I'm back. I heard your question when I was on my way out, Jonathan. There you're back. There you go. Around, so and Zoom ISO, Zoom ISO does not by default pull for everything or for everybody in the meeting. I I have a grid over here. If I share from this machine, I have the ability to tell, hey, how many outputs do I want, from none to, I selected 4 outputs, and then I can assign who I want to each of those outputs. Forth as well.
You're dropping in and out there, Jeff. Your audio is.
Really? Might be sitting on my plug.
Yeah, it sounds like a loose connection.
Yeah, I think I was sitting on the plug there. Is that better now? Or for now? Okay. But anyways, you can be very selective, and naturally, NDI, full NDI is, kind of a minimum starting point of 130 meg per 1080 feed, and so I will say, I posted this the other day on the Slack forum for Liminal even. I said, this MacBook Pro, it's a 2015 MacBook Pro that I'm using with Zoom ISO. And I've been doing this like kind of 4 1080 outputs for a few weeks now. And it's been fine. It feeds vMix and gives me the feeds I want and so forth. But the other day, maybe 3 days ago now, I realized, I go, I bet this laptop only has a slower network card, right? And sure enough, it's a 100 meg card that's built in, and that's what I had been leveraging. I can either go Wi-Fi or I can do USB to network dongle. It doesn't have my previous, like 2013, has a built-in Ethernet port, but this one doesn't. But I wasn't going Thunderbolt out, and so I happen to have a Elgato Thunderbolt 2 dock, and so I went Thunderbolt out to the Elgato and then out to the network. And I did speed tests previously. There were about 94 up and down. I have Google Fiber, and I went through that new route and turned it into 940 up and down because I have gigabit Google Fiber. And so it was a massive change. I still sit and wonder how in the world was I feeding 4 1080s out of it previously and without any big problems, because mathematically that doesn't make any sense to me at all. But yeah, I mean, we all have to watch it. I mean, it's still only a gig, right? I mean, internally. So, you know, eight is probably about the max that anybody would want to entertain, and that can get you. So, go ahead, Bill.
So I just want to clarify. So basically the 130 megs is once it's NDI on your network going across your local network.
Once it's being consumed, yeah. Right. So I can create those 4 outputs. I can define those 4 outputs, tell it for who, right? But if no, and all that is initially is just an advertisement that they're available. Once vMix actually starts consuming them, then the network is then burdened with that as well. Yeah.
So I guess my question though would be, what's the impact on the download bandwidth? So in other words, if I set up NDI ISO, am I now pulling an additional 5 meg from the internet down to me, or
no, it's local. So I mean, it's my internal network. So my Mac here is also connected to this meeting, right? And therefore it has a gallery view, and it knows everybody who's in this meeting as well as I see it on my host machine as well. And so it the NDI ISO or Zoom ISO pulls it locally. So when I say, hey, create 4 outputs, Zoom ISO is not communicating with the Zoom server, which I think is what you're possibly were referring to. Is it saying, oh, go get those images of those people from the Zoom server and pull them down and make them available internally, as in it uses download bandwidth? It's actually very local, because this machine is logged in. Zoom ISO is Zoom OSC is a Zoom client, right? It's logged into this Zoom meeting. Those videos are already present here on my network, and so I'm just saying, take those 4 people and put them on my LAN and make them available for LAN-based consumption. Does it congest my LAN? Yes. Does it actually go on the outside of my router and actually consume download bandwidth? No, it doesn't do that. The sheer fact that machine has joined the meeting does have some download bandwidth impact, right, to be a part of the meeting, but additionally, because it's a Zoom ISO machine, it doesn't add more download bandwidth from your public access.
So when you do a Zoom ISO, does it show up as a separate participant in the meeting?
Yeah, that's what it's doing. It's plucking, like my gallery view right now is six of us with cameras on, so that's my gallery view, and so if I tell Zoom ISO, hey, I want 4 outputs, and I want to put Jeff in one, Bill in the other, Joe in the other, and Jonathan in the 4th, and then it's isolating them out of, think about it as from the gallery, and it will do it at the resolution that I've requested it at. If I'm doing a 720 stream out of vMix, then I'll ask Zoom ISO to give me a 720 feed of your image versus a 1080 or something like that, and have it scale properly all the way through the video chain.
So I haven't used Zoom ISO, but I was testing Videocom, has a NDI product that works on the Windows side. So basically, conceptually, it's the same. It's achieving the same goals. So you basically launch this application. It will log in as separate users for every NDI bridge you're having. And it is increasing the bandwidth. It only does 720p. But what did I do? I had 6 NDI streams, and for each one, it was taking up more download bandwidth. And obviously it pushes bandwidth over the local network, but that I can control. So that's why I'm just thinking it's got to.
Having to do the download bandwidth would tell me that although the tool's local, it's reaching out to the cloud to get the video, which is not an ideal circumstance in the sense that there's more latency when you have to reach that far away to bring it back just to send it back out again. And so that would be a little bit of a challenge in my mind.
I mean, so the reason I paid attention to it is that that's, I think, the benefit of being in the cloud for some of this. If like at 720p, I can manage it locally. But when you start going 1080 and being in the cloud, then I don't have to worry about ingest bandwidth. And there will be plenty of bandwidth to move the NDIs around.
The cloud, yeah, that's one of the cloud's advantages is right. Yeah, the pipes are big when you're cloud hosted. So my camera right now, I've just put a 2-up, and so that's there. I'm going to share this laptop that has Zoom ISO on it. Now you see the 2-up here. That's my second monitor from the Zoom session that's on this computer. So you can kind of see that. That's almost kind of a happenstance accident that was the background of this. But this dialogue, this is this is the primary part of Zoom ISO. And this is nothing less than this is a Zoom client. If you saw my other screen from Zoom, you'd go, oh, that's just Zoom. If I pulled this window up, and I shrunk it down a touch, you can see the toolbar there, you can see the 2-up. It looks like a Zoom client, but that's Zoom OSC/Zoom ISO. It is a Zoom client. It's just from the SDK. And so when I'm just going to build this out, I tell it, hey, Zoom ISO, give me 2 outputs. They are defaulting to my max monitor because it has to pop up a window for each output so that it has kind of a source to pull from. And I say, give me 2 outputs and make their home instead of my extended monitor, the LG, make it the Apple monitor, and put them out there at 1080. Now they do that, so it's going color LCD here and the default resolution, and I want to say who do I want to put there. So I'll say put Bill in the first one. Poof, you popped up in the left of the 2-up, and put Ray in the second one, and there's Ray, right? And now this 2-up is coming from my vMix machine, right? So it's feeding my session into Zoom. But then you're switching. You can say, if Bill stops talking and it's Joe's turn, put Joe up. Or now it's Jonathan's turn, pop Jonathan in there. And I'm not even like video mixing and vMix any longer. I'm just, if I'm going to stay at 2-up and those 2-ups are being fed by Zoom ISO, I can literally from my Stream Deck just manage who is going to which Zoom ISO output, and it video switches on the fly, and impressively fast too. Make the change and it switches quite quickly. So
before you leave this view, so is Zoom ISO on the same machine that you're doing the demo from, or are you?
It is. I mean, the screen that I'm sharing is it's the extended monitor of my Mac, which is where Zoom OSC/Zoom ISO lives. Yeah. So that's all the same machine.
If you were to open your task manager and go to the network, then we'll see how what your machine is pulling down from the internet.
Oops, hang on.
And you can right mouse button click on the taskbar at the bottom, and that.
I think you're thinking Windows.
I am thinking Windows. Forgive me. I am thinking Windows. So I can't.
I have an equivalent. It's called Activity Monitor to a degree. We can look at.
Believe it or not, I have Macs at home. I'm just not as
So
proficient.
this is the Activity Monitor.
Do you have
much
any
like
proof?
the Task Manager, and on the network itself, we've got our send and receive from Zoom ISO and Companion, and then the amount sent and
So if you were
received
to
as well.
kill one of your streams, one of the Zoom ISO streams, right now you're receiving 1.92 gigabit. I'm just curious if that's going to change. Like, are we talking a gigabit per stream? Huh.
I don't anticipate any change because it's not giving me what I'm getting from the internet. It's already on this machine. Like you guys are already in my Zoom gallery and my Zoom, because this machine is part of what I mean. Zoom OSC, Zoom ISO only begins to work and become useful. It is a Zoom client, and so you have to join the meeting. Now you're a part of the meeting. Now even that, like, I could host the Zoom Test Kitchen from the Zoom OSC Zoom client. I could. I don't. I run it from a separate machine, but it's not useful to me till my Zoom OSC machine joins the meeting, therefore knows all the participants, and now they're on that Mac. And so there's no requirement to pull anything down from the internet itself to actually accomplish what it's accomplishing. It's doing it locally. Now, if Andy might be able to dig in a little deeper and say, well, I do in fact have to, request of the Zoom server a 1080 version of that instead of the 360 that's on the machine. That is actually possible, to where I should probably potentially correct myself on that, but I'd have to have him kind of clarify that. But that's actually quite possible, because to say that it does nothing over the internet as far as impact would probably be wrong, because that would say all 6 of us would have to be in that machine at 1080 right now. So it doesn't look very measurable in the sense that we haven't seen any numbers change from the 2 to the 4. But let's run it back up to 4 outputs at 1080. Let's assign 4. I saw it go from 195 to 196.
Yeah. So
Pretty fractional, but
yeah, it's not changing. That's different behavior than what I saw on my Windows machines.
yeah.
But
And
this
we
is
may be
good.
saying pretty minimal. We may be seeing pretty minimal change as well, because I'm asking for 1080 outputs, and it's going to deliver me a 1080 output, even if it has to scale it up, because Ray's not sending me 1080. He can't. And Jonathan, you did switch to 1080, I think, didn't you? And so some of you you don't even have equipment capable of it, right? But it's still, Zoom ISO is still going to send me something. If the best it can get is 720, it's going to deliver it to me at 1080, which means it's going to stretch it and deliver what I asked for. So that would be, potentially that would be a 0 impact on the bandwidth, uh, externally, because there's nothing more to be gained out there, if you will. It says, hey, Zoom, I need a 1080 from Bill. Nah, Bill can only give us 720, and so it gets a 720 and then scales it up internally. Where others might be sitting on that Mac machine at 360 and have the capability of 1080, and much like the example of I'm not going to send 1080 until one of you pins me full screen, and actually requires it, would be the same thing of when Zoom ISO is been told to deliver me a 1080, it's going to go tell the Zoom server, hey, give me a 1080 of this particular attendee, as if I full screen pinned you, right? And so it has the same kind of result. So it could increase the bandwidth, but
And
not
that,
too much.
that might be the explanation, because when I did this test, I was doing it, most of my machines were in gallery view, or smaller screens that were act like a iPad and a Amazon Echo that are small screens, so they're not 1080 or even 720. And so when I did the test, I would see the bandwidth change because I wasn't already pushing out a very high bandwidth. To
Yeah, so you had a bigger gap to fill. Yeah, that makes sense. Michael,
Okay.
how are you?
So Jeff, I have another question.
Sure.
So when you're using Zoom ISO to change who's in the 2-up, and you're doing that with your Stream Deck, are you Stream Deck talking directly with ISO, or are you going through OSC? How's that managed?
So the I right now I'm not set up with it, but let me see if I can. Let's see. Let me go poke over here real quick and see if the preset is. I know it's coming. If it's not there right now, there's a preset coming in Companion that will let you do just this. Let me.
Sorry, I think I interrupted your welcoming.
Right.
I was saying hi. If you haven't met Michael, I'm going to say L'Esperance, but that's probably my naive way of just saying what I think I see. I don't think it's the right pronunciation, Mike. So
That's
correct.
exactly how you say it.
Is it? Okay. But Mike is kind of on the Canadian side, but right by the border. Is that fair to describe?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
Hey, where in Canada are you, Mike?
Detroit,
I'm out west.
Windsor, Ontario.
I'm Kelowna. I grew up near Toronto, other side of it.
My son lives in Kelowna.
Oh, cool. Would I know him?
I don't know. His name is Josh L'Esperance. He's only been there about a year. He's actually on his way home today. He's flying out of Kelowna. Just left a couple hours ago. Anyways, sorry.
Cool.
Don't mean to get back to what you guys were talking about.
No way. No problem. I'm poking around looking to see if it's here yet. There's a little bit going on. I'll go with a regular button and see here. Zoom OSC. So they do have in Companion, they have Zoom ISO actions now.
Okay, so it's direct to ISO. I was wondering how if you had them both running at the same time. Say, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are both running. I mean, so on this Mac, I only have Zoom ISO installed, but Zoom ISO can also host your Zoom OSC key. And so it will let you register the Zoom ISO key and the Zoom OSC key, single install, single application, all on one machine, and then the whole library is in Companion as well. This is all on the same box. So the output ISO, the question is who, and if I pick one of you, I'll go to Bill, and then the PIN number, I'll go to number 1. Now if I I'll just say cut to Bill, and on that 2-up, And there it is. If I click on, that's as good as, I'm doing it on screen, but I could do it on my Stream Deck directly. Let me find the page on my Stream Deck. Okay, so I'm gonna change this to Ray. Now I'm gonna push on my Stream Deck, cut to Bill, and is Ray still? Yeah, Ray's still here. Did it cut? I lost the screen. No, it's staying on Bill. Why didn't it change? Yes, the demo was only good for a one shot.
I was going to say you should never do a live demo.
I'm a risk taker.
Because you didn't
sure.
you didn't change the name. Change the name to cut to Ray, and then it'll work.
yeah, tell it there instead. Really strange. I'm not quite sure what I'm missing here. Oh, how many outputs? I don't. Let's see real quick. I think I still got those. I'm getting Jonathan on both. Yeah. Okay. So Jonathan.
There you go, Jonathan.
And Ray. Let's see if I can change that to 2. This isn't the way to do it for sure, but yeah, I'm not quite sure why the Ray name's not taken. We'll try Joe.
Is it you don't have the ISO only number?
For some reason, Ray's name's not taken. I don't know if that. Don't see 2 listed. I don't know.
I'm the only
Ray.
one with a city name. No, could it be because of my city name?
Yeah, because the others are switching, but that you know, so if I were to take a page like this and like that page right there, where let me see if I can get that updated a little bit. Let me get a gallery view going. Gallery. So you can get some updated names. There we go. So now it's updating the names because on my other page that you can't see because of the share, it's there. So this is a selection layout, right? I can select you know, an individual and then do something with them. You know, spotlight, pen on spotlight. So instead of kind of zoom management here, I could have the populated names dynamically populating, which is like by gallery position 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, and so forth. Instead of having all the zoom actions here, this could be output. This could be select, output 1, select, and so I would click Ray, go to output 1, click this Joe, go to output 2, you know, click Cone, go to output 3, and it would just switch the zoom ISO output. What it's really doing is just changing these names on the 4 outputs, right? And so where vMix is just handling, you know, or whatever tool you're using for that super source, if you will, it just stays the same. As long as you're still managing the 4 up or the 2 up, you can just change the inputs. And Andy has a video out there that he just released. If you go to either his site or Zoom Test Kitchen on YouTube, I link a playlist to his training as well. You can go to Zoom ISO training, and he just released this whole Zoom ISO to vMix to the output and switching it this way as well. So now the change can be a number. I mean, because Companion lets you, let me change my camera here real quick, lets you have multiple actions, right, then you can just do a number of things, one of them being the switch. So you can tell off your Stream Deck, tell vMix to change to this, super source mask, and then follow it with, Bill to this and Joe to this and Jonathan to that, and just do all those actions in one sweep, one button push as well. And so it's really really powerful at that.
So we were going down the path, we got sidetracked. I think my question was, if we went to like a 1080 side slide and we're screen sharing it with a video inset. So basically you pulled up a side by side with two videos. Now, if we did 3/4 of that with, let's say, your Zoom Test Kitchen slide graphic, because here's what happens. I do corporate events and they have slides. Sooner or later during a 1-hour presentation, I'm going to have 20 minutes of slides. I don't get to control how those look, so I don't always control how large the fonts are. And, when I stream it out, it will look pretty good, but I'm just wondering if the audience is actually seeing this at 360p or 720 in a webinar setup. That would explain why slides in particular don't look very good.
Yeah. So I've got a blank slide up right now on my PC. So here's like a 1920 1080 graphic of the Zoom Test Kitchen, for instance. So just guide me through verbally what you want me to build here. I can insert a video, I can resize this, I can put text over it, and so forth.
So on the left side, put, let's say, 4 bulleted text lines at a 16-point font.
I'm going to be challenged.
Kind of like an agenda section, or bullet points that they'll talk to.
Oh, let's see. Text.
Yeah. You can grab. Yeah, there you go.
Said 16.
Yeah, let's say 16.
Okay.
Looks kind of small, doesn't it?
It does look.
Let's go
small.
18.
I think I might have just done this here for you.
You got it?
Yeah. Let me just fire up some actual media. So you're scrolling through Amazing Grace or whatever content you want.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we
full
go.
screen video behind you. Yeah.
This is, yeah.
Keep going. So ultimately what you're going to want to, ultimately the test is going to be share something that we've got that has slide content, text-based content, and maybe an embedded video in like to the right of these bullet points, so that you want to test the clarity, is the text readable and is the video acceptable on a 720p meeting? Is that where we're heading?
Yeah, that is where I'm headed. So basically, okay. I'd be screen scraping in the slides from a full 1080, and then bringing it into vMix, compositing of, let's say a 360p video on the right, and scaling the slides so that they don't overlap, so they're side by side, and then pushing it back to Zoom. If I push it to a live web stream, it looks fine. But if I push it to Zoom.
And is it a 720 Zoom account?
What I've been doing is using the Echo Show to bump it up to 720.
Okay, yeah.
It all depends on how small the fonts are, on how it will end up looking.
Okay. So here's a playable video, a background graphic, 18-point text. Is this a fair makeup for
Yeah, and then we'd take that slide, go full screen.
Yeah, full
Yeah.
frame.
Yep. Oops. Set up slideshow. That says that's not on that. I just want it to be on the same monitor. That's the thing. Primary. Like so?
Yeah. So you see, it looks
So-
sharp here, but you're probably sending me 1080, I bet.
Right now I probably am. So I'm going to kill my share. I'm going to reshare it. No, oh yeah, let me optimize it, because my optimize will knock me down from the 1080 down to, actually that would have been my monitor's resolution a moment ago. Now it's going to cut that, what you just saw is now going to be cut in half, because it's going to go from 1440 down to 720. Okay. So now this should be 720 now. You see the share there? The
Yes.
slide we made? And double check the share statistics. Make sure you're getting it at 720.
I'm
Yep.
seeing it 720.
Yes.
I'm still getting it at 720.
Yeah, but that's the objective, right? That's our target. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So a moment ago, I'm just saying, the first time I shared this, it would have, if we would have looked, it would have been 1440. It would have naturally sent the resolution of my monitor, and so we cut it in half. The question is there a really large visual difference? Probably lost a crispness to its clarity, but it's still pretty darn clear, I would guess.
Well,
So,
if you play the video, will that make a difference?
yeah, well, a little bit, yeah. But is the text readable? That's the part that always like motion video almost is okay at a crummy 360 because it's motion, right? But it's that text that just falls to pieces when you don't have decent resolution. So does 720 satisfy the text edges? That's what I would be most concerned with. Yes,
So to
Bill?
me.
No, Bill?
I mean, it looks good here, but
You're not a believer. I don't know.
I'm
I
not,
don't know what
because
I'm
I've
sending this to you at 720, which is exactly what your Echo Show
I know.
takes your meeting to. Okay, here we go.
No change.
How was that? Everything's good. No, there shouldn't be a change. Should stay at 720. Your frame rate, should be.
When you shared your screen, did you optimize it for anything special, or just do a share screen share?
I just did. Well, the first time I did a screen share, which is non-optimized, which means you're going to get my screen resolution. So here is a unoptimized screen share. And I'm not even going to look, but you should be seeing that at 1440p, 2560 by 1440. Little crisper, probably.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, kind of like, almost like that's your own monitor's pixels. It should be kind of that clear. It's impressive because it's higher resolution, but the frame rate sucks. And if I hit play on the video, I'm not sure what you'll get. This account being an Enterprise 1080, it still seems to do okay on frame rate, but most accounts I work on outside of this one, the frame rate falls apart.
What's the frame rate?
26 frames per second. I've got.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's
25
fine.
is fine.
So maybe what's going on is when I've been in these webinars that I'm only getting 360p.
Yep.
Well,
you can't.
And that's the fear.
Yeah, Echo shows that all those options, meeting meters, Echo show, none of those will improve the webinar attendees experience.
Well, this is bad news.
yeah, you don't control the you don't control what you're getting in a webinar, right? Like you have no control over it. It sends you what it sends you, correct?
No, I mean, it's achievable. If we were to jump off this meeting and I were to fire up a webinar and we all met there, you would have a 1080 experience because we do have a 1080 webinar account. But so it is achievable. It's just one of those things. Is like, can you afford it? Can you get whitelisted for it? I mean, that's the thing. It's probably the hardest level, to get to. I think it's the most challenging. I don't think they'd entertain it on a pro account at all, ever, for 1080 webinar. They might at 720 webinar to the attendees, but but it takes it really, I would say, probably kind of minimum requirement is going to be a business or enterprise account. A business account is basically 10 pro accounts a month, and that's kind of where it starts. I've heard people say that yeah, if you talk to people and ask them, and you've got 8 right now, but you anticipate growth or whatever the story is, sometimes they'll let you into a business plan, an account or two early. I don't know what the numbers and all the experiences are, but it's not usually quite that black and white. But as they draw it out on their website, it's 10 account minimum, and so about it's about $200 a month to get started.
Hey Jeff, you're
Yeah.
you're sharing content on your 1440 screen. If you don't have a 1440 screen, you only have a 1080 screen. Do you know of any ways to spoof a different screen that Zoom will see? Like just pure software without using an EDID manager or something?
Well, you can if you have an HDMI output, physical output on your device, you can put a dummy head on it. I mean, they're like $8, and you can just put a dummy HDMI head on it, and it makes the computer think that that's an external device. And if you buy,
Yeah, I was wondering if there's a way to do that with software exclusively to lie to Zoom. So if I've got a 1080 monitor and I say, no, I've really got a 1440.
No, I don't think so.
Bad.
I think you'd have to have a physical device, even if it's a dummy head, that has the capability of acting like a 1440, like a 2K monitor or 4K monitor or whatnot. That you'd at least have to have that tiny little dummy head in there. That's the best lie I know about. I don't know of any software solution that does that, but I don't know everything either. But I've had a lot of conversations around it, and I've never heard of anything beyond the physical dummy heads. So you do have to have the port for it.
I came across
What camera are you using, Jeff?
GitHub project. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, you were done. Sorry. What camera are you using, Jeff?
It's the Canon EOS R. They're mirrorless. It has the 24-70 2.8 lens on it, and it's been my favorite. I love to shoot. I mean, it often comes off its tripod, and I go shoot. And whether I like portrait photography a lot, indoor, outdoor on that. But when I'm in the studio, I just mount it up and go out HDMI. The webcam utility just stinks. It can take older cameras and make them useful, but it'll only go out 576p. It won't even get to HD, and vMix doesn't support the Canon web utility either. So that wasn't useful. I just go out HDMI into my PCIe capture card. It's Magewell, I think, and pull it in.
Is that new? Does that look? You look a lot better than you did the last time I was. Maybe.
No, I will say the last time you were in for several weeks. I don't know how I kind of slowly declined. I really kind of describe it like that. Like I personally got more comfortable with lower light levels, lower light levels, lower light levels. Then I realized I'm getting ready for a meeting, and I'm kind of grumpy because I can't get rid of this red splotchiness on my face. And I mean, I do have it, but not like, if you saw me in person, you're like, you don't have like red splotchiness on your face. And I found out that, I mean, I added one more light to my left that actually faces away from me but bounces off a white poster board. So and there's an LED panel above it that shines right down on me, but then below it is a white poster board reflecting an additional light that I added. I added a back highlight, which does nothing for my splotchiness, but I also did a camera mounted Pixel G1, I think it is. And that just kind of takes like shadows and so forth. I just added more light to the room, and it made a big difference on helping the camera itself, I think, with clarity, and a lot of the splotchiness was horrible. Like if I killed these two lights, this is what I was dealing with. I'll do this real quickly just to show you the depth.
I'm going to take this opportunity to say goodbye, gentlemen. Till next time.
All right. So those are the two lights that I added, and so I would crank up my aperture a little bit and deal with kind of about that. It's not quite as bad as it used to be, but it just enhances. The lower the lights are, like that was a little ways away, but I just enhanced the number of lights, and I felt fine about it, you know, in the sense that it's like, you know, most TV studios are pretty dang bright, obnoxiously bright, you know, so I think I just got too comfortable, you know, so I will turn at least that one back on for now. But
when you're showing up in that office hours panel, the bar can be set pretty high, as some of those guys have got some real good kit.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. Jeff Keithley, I don't remember what he uses, but he and Andy Carluccio both have some super clear, and Alex as well in certain settings. Even when he's remote, he just it's when the light is so well balanced, and you really don't see. I'm going to color shade this down a little bit in vMix. You don't see the hot spots, you know, and they're just well illuminated. And I'd like to have a little more room in this office behind me so that the backdrop didn't catch so much of the studio lighting, so it could be a little darker. Because if I did this, if I color shade this and bring the darks down, you know, so the background looks, you know, darker and all, that's when my face splotchiness really starts to show up. That's awful. And so the extra light helped with that, but I still can't get as dark behind me because it's just too close. It's only about 4 feet behind me. So I just had to kind of find a happy spot. All right, Bill's here, Jonathan's here, Mike, Cohn. What other topics we want to tackle?
Unmute, Ray.
I have to say goodbye, Jeff. I've got to get out of here for 5 o'clock.
No way. All right. Always good to have you here, though. Thanks for coming and hanging out.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Enjoy your weekend.
You too.
I've also got to go.
All right. So we have a contact. Jonathan, you got to leave everybody your email address. You don't really have to. If anybody who uses ProPresenter, what's your role around ProPresenter? Marketing? Okay.
Well, I got to get your contacts. I just bought ProPresenter a couple weeks ago. And
awesome. Welcome.
Yeah.
Jonathan's work worked. He sold you.
Yeah, I was looking. I was going through the book that the Stream Geeks guys wrote about NDI, and I didn't realize that you could use ProPresenter to send graphics over NDI. And that was one of the main reasons why I invested in it. And now, of course, I've been playing with it for a couple weeks and been all up in.
Yeah. Since what, version 7, right? I think 6 was Siphon and 7 was NDI.
Yeah.
Or I guess 6 you could buy an add-on. Yeah, you could buy an add-on for that for a little while, I thought. So yeah.
Yeah, 7 has it's insane technology. Just the guys outdid themselves.
7's got really killer Mike. 7's also got some of the video technology that's really, I haven't played around with it yet, but it's looks really good. Very very user friendly.
You can stream straight out of it over RTMP or Resi.
Yeah. And how many sources can you get in there before it starts to fall apart? Any idea?
The software itself, unlimited.
Really?
It's based on hardware. My sources, I don't even know. My church runs about 10 outputs. So
right.
Whatever you can do.
So now, could you use Zoom ISO to get into to isolate some Zoom feeds and get it into ProPresenter?
Yep. Yeah. Does ProPresenter ingest as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, sheesh. Let me show you. This here is me live over myself.
At 5 o'clock, you're probably done, but
in the background,
and
throwing up some points. This is live ingest from my webcam into ProPresenter.
But is it ingesting your webcam directly or via? Will it ingest an NDI feed?
Yeah, we'll do it all directly. For the last live stream that we did, then we did it over. We didn't use Zoom. We used Microsoft Skype or Teams, and then an NDI feed from my boss doing a live stream of, hey, here's what's happening, through ProPresenter, so we could put some extra stuff onto it, then out.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's the next thing I'll be fooling around with. Well, that and Zoom ISO. I just did 2 Zoom ISO licenses this week.
Nice.
So. Yeah, that's what's feeding my 2 up there is Zoom ISO right now, and it. But cool. I did learn. So I've got a MacBook Pro next to my PC here because it runs on a Mac, right? Zoom ISO is Mac only at the moment, and so I learned a couple of things today from Andy. And let's see, it was I was getting the 1080. It pops up a window to deliver, the image, and that's what it's capturing, the 1080 from or the 720 from and so forth. So you end up, if you say, hey, give me 4 outputs, you're going to get 4 pop-up windows on whichever display you tell it to use. But the image within it, I was getting like this tiny little bottom left corner or bottom right corner of what would be the whole image. And so he'd give me some guidance. Let me pull up the Slack message. I mean, I just went through this. See if I can find his response. But anyways, I made a couple of, here it is. I made a couple of changes. It says it's probably a screen scaling issue. Can you disable that? And my reply was, both monitors, the built-in Mac monitor and the external was set to default for display rather than scaling. Is this what you're recommending? No, he's actually recommending going to scaled and selecting the highest resolution. And so I did that, and then he said best case scenario with multiplays is to turn off all the default scaling and to either match the display hardware's resolution or higher, and that fixed it really quickly, actually. So then he also added, there's under the system preferences, there's mission control, is make sure that mission control does not have what's called separate spaces. Displays have separate spaces. Make sure that that is not enabled, and that those couple of suggestions will give you some nice data. This has actually been the most solid feed of ISO feeds, and I've been bouncing it all over the place today. As far as that goes, I've taken them away to 0. I've built 2. I've taken them away to 0. I've built 4. And then I've changed people that are feeding them, and it's been rock solid. And so I super happy with that.
I happened to see you were mentioning earlier his the tutorials that he put up. I didn't realize that Zoom ISO is that simple until I watched the tutorial where he was putting it into, I don't know if it was vMix, sorry, it was Wirecast or Mimo Live. And because, I find personally, I find Zoom OSC, you guys start talking about OSC and I kind of glaze over after a while because I just find it complicated.
Well, there's a ton. I mean, Zoom ISO is kind of a bit of a one-trick pony, right? I mean, I pick this person and output them, or do that for 4 people or whatnot, and so kind of the library of features and so forth is much smaller and contained. Zoom OSC it's a very wealthy library of things that can be done, and kind of first thing is to understand kind of what can be done, and the part that gets most people is, and it nailed me just as hard as everybody else, I think: target ID, Zoom ID, gallery position, list index, and you have all these references, different methods of referencing, your attendees in the meeting, and you can spotlight, let's say I can spotlight by your list index number, or I can do it by your Zoom ID or your target ID. Why so many choices? And they all have their place, they kind of all have their place depending on what kind of a meeting and what the meeting requirements are and what you're trying to solve, and if it's just I think if it's a small meeting, I can, let's see if I can, let's simplify what's going on here. Let me,
So Mike, why Jeff's doing that, I agree with you. And I think the real issue is that Zoom ISO is, or rather Zoom OSC is so new that they're quickly building, and it'd be so much easier for us if they had here's a solution kit. Here's what what kind of event are you trying to do? Here's how to do that.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I watched Jeff and Andy show their stream decks and how they set stuff up, and I went, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I had spent basically a week playing around with my own workflow and how to make it fit. Where Zoom ISO, if you're comfortable using a video switcher, you just bring it in and you're using the workflow you've already comfortable with and know how to use. So,
right. And that was I kind of didn't go towards Zoom ISO because I was like, well, OSC is so complicated. ISO is probably the same thing. So I kind of stayed away from it. But then his videos came up in my YouTube feed the other day, and I just checked it out, and I was like, that's all? That's it? Yeah. Well, I get that. I mean, so I've been looking for a way to I've been talking to Greg Gibson a lot, and I've been looking for a way to do what Greg is doing, and I kind of went through the Zoom Room thing, but you know, it's only three, it's a maximum of three outputs, and it's, you know, $60 a month for three outputs. That's, you know, that can get pretty expensive pretty quickly.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure,
Not
go
to cut you off, but it's around Zoom rooms. Is it just 3 NDI feeds, or do you get 3 and then you could screen scrape 2 others?
Yeah, I think you can get 5, but it's still, you know, when you're trying to do that straight, I like simple workflows, and when you're just trying to do that straight NDI feed out to, in my case, I'm doing Wirecast because I'm on a
Right.
Mac, so I don't like all, you know, I like to keep it simple. So I kind of, so that was the solution I was looking for. And when I saw what Andy was doing in the video the other day, I was like, oh my God, that's so the answer for me. And I have a couple extra Mac computers, so I just got 2 licenses and put it on. Jeff, what MacBook Pro are you using? You know,
I just have a
pardon me?
it's a 2015 MacBook Pro. It has 16 gig of memory in it, and
Right.
so it's been around the block, but still see it's running. What's the latest? What's the latest OS? What are they calling it? I want to say High Sierra, but it's not High Sierra. Big Sur. I upgraded it to Big Sur, which, yeah, you know, Andy says, you know, there's some issues, but I don't know exactly what they are. So,
And
I think I just applied an update to Big Sur as well just the other day too.
Yeah, are you getting 4 feeds out of that 2015 laptop pretty easily to 41080?
Well, I mean, I almost always have 4 coming out at any given time, and we can, I think today we've got 4 videos on right now. I can turn my iPad video on as well and add that, so we can take it up to 5. I don't think it'll have any problem at all. So here, let's just workshop some stuff here.
And so on the Zoom ISO, is it a clean feed too, like no names?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he just his. I don't know if it's in the released. I think it's in the beta builds right now. So like if you, I think maybe it's out. I can't. I usually run on kind of early models just because of the, you know, testing and feedback I provide them. But there is a. If I can get the toolbar and bring it up. Right here, there's the, you know, show usernames on outputs, and so I can just uncheck that, and now it's a perfectly clean 1080 output, and so so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 videos on right now, and we have a gallery that's 7 attendees, right? Most of the extra ones are my devices. Go ahead, Mike.
Is that your own gallery, or is that a?
This is my gallery.
Right.
And this is the gallery that's coming from the Zoom OSC/ISO client. It's a single, it's a single application that supports OSC and ISO together at the same time. And but yeah, it is its own gallery. So this machine is logged into this meeting. You can see it. It's called Jeff OSC in the participants. And that's what this machine is. And so it's its gallery. It also has Companion on it, and so you can see here we've got 3 across and 3 down technically as well, right? And so it's in the middle. So take a look at the order. Jeff, I don't remember which one is this call, and then Bill, and then Cone, and Mike. Jeff OSC, Bill, Cone, and Mike. Same exact order, right? Same exact placement. Top left, top right, Jeff and Bill. First left in the middle is Mike. first left in the middle is Mike. And then my iPad, I'll turn this camera on. Somewhere, here we go. So now that camera's on as well. And now you see that displays also. And you can see that it came up in the gallery as well. And so it's very dynamic. So if I shrunk this window and made it 2 across and 3 deep, Zoom OSC on this page, the Stream Deck page, adjusted dynamically and appropriately. That's the new gallery layout, right? And so from top left down to Bill and then Mike, that's Jeff, Bill, and Mike, and then one non-video with then Cone and Jeff, non-video Cone and Jeff, and then magically as well, what if I took a non-video user and said hide non-video users? Now I have a 2 across and 3 down, and it instantly adjusted to that as well. And so, you know, when you have that ability to still manage and you know, I can select Jeff and then spotlight him, and now I'm the spotlight, and so he's still there, so I can let's see, yeah, clear spots and pins. That will remove me, I think, and then go there. And so it's that ability to take, you know, this button on your Stream Deck, and that's the syntax for, you know, a dynamic variable of gallery position 0, 0. So you're basically saying, hey, Stream Deck, draw the label of the name of the person in gallery position 0, 0. And then this one is draw the name of the person in gallery position 0, 1. And all the way across. Is there, I'm asking the same thing, but for gallery position row 0, column 2, and keeping in mind everything's 0 indexed. And you know, the question is there a third column over here? And the answer is no, not right now. And that's why this ends up being a dash, because there is no answer to this dynamic variable question right now. There is no name, right? But anytime there is one, it'll pop it up. And so if you know, change the size and the layout, and you turn a 2 wide into a 3 wide gallery, then oh, we lost Bill. That's why that's not doing that. So we'll go 4 across now, because it's a smaller meeting and all. Now you got 4 across, and so if they're there in position 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, bingo, they show up. That carries over to the next meeting. Right? So you program this page once, configure it once, and you just join it to the next meeting, and pop, 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 all the names come up based on their position. And so if it's a small manageable meeting and you just need to spotlight and so forth, you can do just that. If it gets to be bigger than that, you go, man, I can't draw the whole freaking gallery of 200 people, 500 people in a meeting. I really only need to manage these 8. And that's when it comes down to those other references of, you know, either do it by target ID or list index, or have them come up, and in the next release they'll have what's called, gives you the ability to create favorites. And so when the speakers show up a little early, they pop up like in the gallery view. It looks like this dynamic gallery position. Well, hell, there's only 10 of us in the meeting, a couple of techs plus the speakers, and you go, make a favorite, make a favorite, make a favorite, make a favorite, make a favorite. That's what this page is all about. So that when the 300 people show up, you change to the other page, which lets you manage spotlighting and muting and unmuting by favorites. And so we don't even care about all the others. We just care about these ones that we made the favorites, and that's where we manage the rest of the show. So there's definitely a good rhyme and reason why there's, you know, like a Zoom ID. If you did everything by Zoom ID, if somebody disconnects and reconnects, it's not survivable, they will come in with a new Zoom ID. And so if you have anything programmed specifically to their Zoom ID, it will no longer work. But they also, so they created target IDs. And so a target ID can be created. A target ID is created by matching a name. And so this button says, do this for this target ID, and their name is such and such. And so as long as it can match the name of them in the meeting, it will spotlight them, if you will, by target ID. And so now if they disconnect unbeknownst to them or intentionally and come back in, as long as their name's the same, even though their Zoom ID changed, it doesn't matter. That button will still work as intended because the target ID is survivable, and with the name, knowing that the behavior is a name match, and so it can survive. So, yeah, just different ways to approach things based on the challenges that are in front of you on that particular event, and so
I was trying to. Where I was trying to get with it was to be able to take these ISOs and put them into Wirecast and then basically come out of Wirecast and go back into. So
into what?
Like I can go back out of Zoom and create or back out of Wirecast and create a Zoom meeting out of it. So that was kind of
yeah, you can do it. You can take, have one Zoom meeting for the speakers, kind of green room on. And then you would pull the muxed audio out of it because Zoom ISO only provides video, not audio right now. And then you would feed the output of Wirecast into the audience's general session, if you will.
Right.
And you could easily do that. And so what we were doing earlier, I think right when you were showing up, I think it was this one, Spotlight. Yeah, I think that was it. Oh yeah, it was this one. So what you can do is you can take this, let's take some syntax from this other page. So we know this is from gallery position, right? And so let's take this syntax for the sake of shortcutting it.
Mike, Jeff, I've got to leave now. It's 12 o'clock in the evening here. Have a good evening. Bye.
You too, Cone. Take care, buddy. So we'll say, hey, give me the name of who's in gallery position 00. This one we'll do a regular button and say, give me the name of the 01. That's you and me. And then finally, we've got me again, but we have a 3 wide, so we'll go with a third button.
When you're doing all that in software, you don't actually have a Stream Deck, correct?
I do have a Stream Deck.
Oh, do you?
It's sitting on my desk. So everything I'm doing here that's showing up here, I can see right on my buttons on my desk as well. And here we'll cheat for a touch here. See if I can. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It's over there on the right side a little bit.
You know what I discovered today? Really.
What's that?
I've been on computers for I don't know how 30 some years now. I discovered I was reading a post from Ed Willock.
Yeah.
And he mentioned a program that allows you to control all your computers with the same mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
I had no idea anything like that existed.
Yeah. So I have my PC, a Mac, a PC, and a Mac, an old iMac, and so PC, Mac, and I've got one mouse and one keyboard, and I just move my mouse and it swipes the entire area. It's called Synergy.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I bought. Synergy.
And it works great. And you need to keep your keyboards around just in case something goes wonky, but it doesn't usually go wonky much. And when it's working, it's really, really fascinating how well it works. Because even, like when I go PC, so PC's side to side, 2 monitors. When I go over here to my Mac, I have it a lower monitor and an upper monitor.
Right.
And so I can come across to the Mac, and then once I'm on the Mac, I can go up and down. I can go across to this PC, which is the same, up and down, and it's just it's pretty fascinating.
I was
So,
actually able to go around. Like I was able to go from left to right and then circle up because I have my 3 computers are right in front of me. I don't have another camera behind. I will in a couple of days, but my 3 computers are in front of me and the 3 monitors are up here.
yeah,
And I was able to go all the way around. So
that's awesome.
it's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy cool.
And save
So
a ton of desk space. Like I'm able
yeah,
to get all my peripherals back in front of me now again instead of a bunch of keyboards and mice.
yeah. So check this out. So in vMix, I'm gonna cut to a 2 up.
2 up, yeah.
And so with that, our gallery in the share is 3 wide right now, right? And so it's kind of a condensed example, but in Zoom ISO, I have 2 outputs set up, right? As a number of outputs 2, and I want Jeff in the first one and Mike in the second one. So now I'm going to do the infinity thing, but we know what we're going for there. And so it is there. So that's set up. Now let's say you're on a show and you have 15, 20, or however many people in your meeting, and you'd rather control that. You don't want to change the 2 up. You just want to change the content of the 2 up.
Right.
And so the content's coming from Zoom ISO, and so you take these buttons that are dynamically populated with the name of the person in that gallery position, and they have a library here. If I added a new action, and they have a library item here now, and these are under their beta builds, not their public release right now, but they have a section here for Zoom ISO actions, and so the Zoom ISO action is to be able to assign the output ISO, and so who do I want it to assign? I want it to assign, you can reference me in this case by gallery position, which is the 00 that it got me from, right? And so the identifier there is position 00, I think, and we'll see if that works. And then, but then I want to, I don't know if the first output is a 1 or a 0, but we're gonna go. I think it's a 1. We'll do that there, and then we'll go on the second button. We'll do the Zoom ISO output to the gallery position. I know these have got to be commaed out. So 01, I'll go update mine, and then pin number 2. And so I'll go change mine to position 00. So so that's between those 2, and then this last one, it says it's displaying Mike, but that's not true. Yeah, so it just should be saying Jeff iPad. Not quite sure. 0001. Oh, that's why I didn't change the index on it. 02. Now it says the right name. And then finally, there, gallery position 02. and I'll just switch to between my two cameras to the same output. And so now on our output, if I wanted to put my iPad camera in the left window, I can just click that. If I wanted to put me in the left window, I can click on that. So I can just switch from here if I were to have assigned you or had another button to put you into the number 1 output, and let's say the iPad into the number 2. That was pre-built. I obviously wouldn't type and change the stuff on the fly, but I can put you in the left window, my iPad in the right window, and so I'm not having to change anything, you know, in vMix. It's just holding the 2 up. And if I had a party of 8 to work through, and I'm just managing, hey, I can do a select. I can do a select. And then I could do this in 2 steps. I could say, this is not actually an action here. It is, it is a selection action. And so you can add to selection, just basically meaning, hey, you press the button, we'll keep track of that. You pressed another button, we'll keep track of that. So we just add that to a selection. And the question is, you know, who are we selecting? We're selecting gallery position 0, 0. And then yours is, whoops, let me get rid of that other action here. So now all it is a selection. And then I'll do yours also. And we'll make that a selection. Add the selection for gallery of 0, 1. So now they're selected. So now over here we could add the action button. So, well, what do you want to do? And we say here to out 1, and here to out 2, right? So select, assign, one or the other output, right? And then select and assign, one or the other output. And so when I go to output 1, that's when I want to take and do what? That is, I want to do the ISO action output, but now who do I want? I want it to output the selection. Mm-hmm. Makes sense? And I want to output the selection to output number 1, and this one to the selection to output number 2. I think I got that right. I guess we're about to find out. So the thought is we go to Jeff to output 1, yep, and Mike to output 1. That one didn't work, or did it? That one's not. Oh, I think what I'm missing here is at the end of these output assignments, I think I need to add a selection action of clear the selections. So every time I pick one and then assign it to an output, at the end of the assignment, clear the selections. And so we're going to do that. I think that'll do that. And that, I think that'll do it. So I'll clear those. All right, so I got Jeff to output 1, and then Mike to output 2. There we go. Now Mike to output 1, and Jeff's, let's say, Jeff's iPad to output 2. So, so that works. So now just select Bing. So now you have control of who to what output. If you had a 4 up, tell it which output and 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you can just keep switching. And so at the end of each one of these outputs, I could have a little better visual indicators. Like you can get feedback as well. So like when Jeff's button is highlighted, you can get feedback, user status feedback. Let's see when. See when. Oh, that's user status. Is that the one? Yeah, that's got to be the one. User is gallery position 0,0 is selected. So when selected is on, when I am selected, let's make that button green. There we go. So when I click on it, it makes it green. So it knows it's selected. Bing, I hit output, and then now it's not selected because the last action I had in the output assignment was to clear the selections. So now all I have to do is hit Mike, which I don't have the color assignment to, and manage you, or Jeff and manage me. And so it and then this becomes reusable for those gallery positions and or favorites and so forth. So if they don't have favorites on here yet, and they have it in the programming but not in the companion presets. But if I had these outputs over on the right side, and then had 6 across for galleries or favorites. If these were favorites, I'd build my 6 to 12 favorites and just change outputs. And the only other thing I'd have to do is like manage. I could also, you're managing. I don't know how tight the tie is to Wirecast, but I could build into. I could have another row, a column here, where this button is a 1 up, and this button is a 2 up. And what these buttons are doing is they're talking to vMix to tell it what mask to throw up there, SuperSource mask, and then the outputs are doing their thing. So. Or I could switch those columns. So I'm like, Jeff, output 1, 1 up. And then the output would already be there when I tell vMix to put the 1 up, or the 2 up. The inputs are already assigned. So kind of cool. I mean, and that's why it's such a larger library that can be a bit daunting, is that there's just, it's like a programmer's library in a sense. There's just a ton of things that can be done. How they get put together to create a workflow for your particular event is really the project, So
I'll start likely is really just using Zoom ISO to isolate the outputs, or isolate the inputs into Wirecast, and then I'll probably just use the Stream Deck protocols for Wirecast to just use it within the program, not bother with companion. That's how I'll start, anyways, because so much of that is over my head at this point.
Yeah, well, and it, right now, you'd probably be in a spot where I'm learning it just to learn it versus learning it to have to apply it in next week's show. It's a
Right.
whole different level of push to have to understand, right? And I function that way constantly. I learn best and fastest and retain it best when I have to go apply it, and so it's usually just baby steps, and it's either something that you need to get done better or faster or more reliably or more convenient, whatever the case may be, and just baby step your way in. I mean, I don't know anybody who, didn't start with just putting together a few Stream Deck buttons for spotlighting. And then you go, gosh, man, all I had to do is add a second action, toggle spotlight, on, off, same button, just toggle. Well, if I toggle the spotlight on, don't I need to unmute them? Yeah, add a second action, unmute, And so now you're spotlighting and unmuting in one button. And then when you unspotlight them, you're remuting them. And so you bring them on stage, bring them off stage, on stage, off stage. And then, and then you get to a situation where it's not just one person at a time, it's 2 or 3. And it's even if it's Zoom only, no Wirecast, no vMix, and it's just multi-spotlights. And then you can do, well, how do I get one button to do 3 spotlights? And so it's just progressing into a little bit more, a little more research, a little more practice and execution, and then how it all flies. And then I build, buttons for individuals, but then there's certain shows where I'll build scenes, and I'll do a scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and they're just I know I've got a 3 up, or I know I've got a 4 up, and and that's where I'll do a build what I label it as a scene, and then I put the reference to that scene in the run of show, and then whoever ends up calling the show calls it out, and I've got it here, and it works great. So
I would just use the Zoom ISOs like they were camera. I would basically build my superset, composite it as a preset, and then attach that to a Stream Deck button, so the whole thing comes up. And then I'm pretty sure I can do that. I haven't started working on it yet. And I think that's what Greg does. I don't know if he uses a Stream Deck to do his switching, but he's going from like a 5 up to a 1 up to a 5 up with a side thing. He's got a bunch of different, and he's just trying to get those ISOs into the different camera positions as just inputs.
Yep.
So I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna
I think what I think is exciting about ISO coming out of a Zoom room or Zoom ISO I feel like gives me the ability to do more, but in either case, you may have this large meeting, and let's say you have 15 key players out of 1,000 people who are there. Do you create 15 ISOs that and each ISO is tied to a what you call a super source, and they're tied to those squares, or do you have a 1 up, a 2 up, a 3 up, a 4 up, and then manage the content of those ups, which are really just transparent masked boxes, and feed them by switching the 4 outputs instead of 15 outputs of Zoom ISO. I think that's fascinating. It's way more efficient as far as bandwidth goes. If you know the maximum number on screen is, let's say 6, then you need 6 outputs total, and then you just manage the content. On vMix, not vMix, but the Stream Deck, it's in vMix, but in Greg's world, on the Stream Deck you go 6 up, on the outputs, boom, 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 you know, and you feed them, or 4 up, boom, 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 you know, and I think that's what becomes fascinating, rather than having all these inputs and feeds that are really standby versus just switching the content fillers. And I just think it's fascinating at that. So anyways, because they're already there, they're already in the Zoom meeting, you know, that's where they can stand by till I need them, you know. So
like Greg says, you know, Zoom, he likes using Zoom because everybody's familiar with it. So it's just, you know, you're really just using it as a front end more than anything else. It's
you know, corporations are, you know, they say, yeah, we want to use Zoom as the gathering place. You know, it makes sense. I mean, you know, we don't always give it enough credit, you know. It's like, oh, really? Can't we just, you know? It's like, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you know, as easy as it is for somebody to get to YouTube, it's just as easy for them, especially, you know, in their organization, to log into Zoom, because it's what they do all day, every day. And so, and they can do it. We don't have, I mean, who was the last producer who had to dick around with somebody trying to connect because they were on an iPhone or an Android or a tablet or a Mac? Yeah, we don't, Zoom's done all that for us. They've built the clients for all that connectivity. That's why they are saying we want to go there, because everybody can connect, and so they make it very, very possible. And then and so that hassle's not our hassle, which is great. And then outside of that, you know, you can either keep it all in Zoom and manage what, you know, kind of manage the generic Zoom experience, or brand it and use tools like this, and maybe a separate Zoom meeting for a green room, where that's where you're plucking, you know, the ISOs out of versus the main session, and then feed them into the main session. So, yeah, excuse me. But yeah, it just keeps getting, you know, better and more flexible, and eventually there will be more than enough choices that we kind of have to pick our brand and path and stick with it and get really good at it, you know. And that's what Greg has done. Greg has done a really good job of, you know, committing to, you know, he surprisingly got into cloud, you know, because he was not a cloud advocate when he started, that's for sure. But little by little, he just found himself not willing to kind of unplug what he had done and kind of leave it, but eventually became a fan, and now he's there with almost everything.
He's only using that on his really big stuff. Most of the stuff doing, like his bipartisan thing that he does, I think almost every day. He's just doing that. I shouldn't say just. He's doing that in his vMix, everything.
Yeah, everything local.
Go to the cloud. Bill, are you a Mac or PC guy?
I'm on PC in my office, and I'm about ready to go buy a Mac Mini because Zoom OSC is going to force my hand there. So, you know, it's all good. I do have Macs at home. I designated my daughter to be mobile tech support because we all have iOS devices, and I'll just put her to work as Mac desktop support too.
There you go.
Anyway, no, I am Windows, and I've been struggling because I do want to go to the cloud, and it has to be on Windows then. Well, I shouldn't. From my understanding, there's networking issue if it's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can virtualize a Mac these days, but it's expensive to do.
So, but it sounds like Andy plans on getting there later this year. So as an interim, I was thinking, okay, if I go buy a new Mac Mini, I can always run Zoom rooms in the interim, you know, to get NDI feeds in. But what I'm realizing, and this is sort of, unless I have 1080p webinar, I'm thinking for total workflow. So basically, I need to stream it out live. I can use Zoom meetings for contribution. but you really can't do a show because you don't have an ability to force everyone to follow you, which is where webinars make sense. But if webinars don't have, if I don't have a 720p or higher audience experience, then I think it's a bad experience. So I'm now pushed to streaming, which I'm fine with. That's what I've been doing, right? I do live streaming.
On the M1, if you got an M1, you could use Zoom ISO and use Siphon and go into Nemo Live. Now you can't go into Wirecast using Siphon, but you can go into Nemo Live using Siphon. So it's a little bit complicated, and Nemo Live is also a monthly. It's not a buy once cry once. It's a monthly thing. So
what I have behind me, I got DeckLink cards and Sonnet boxes for Thunderbolt 3 because my on-site rigs, I've got a couple 6-core laptops that I use SDI ingest for when I do stuff on site. So I could put them to use with.
What vision are you using? Are you using what are you using vMix or?
Yeah, I've got a TriCaster, and I migrated to vMix and kind of fell in love with it. So my TriCaster is aging. It's just there if I need to do a multi-room setup and I need switchers in all these different rooms. But that's why I want to go to the cloud. I want to produce those all those breakout sessions using SRT up into the cloud and produce it out. So I do want to me the cloud is the end play, and that's why I've been reluctant to buy the Mac, is because I'm going, okay, this is a short-term solution, but I think I need to do it. And Jeff, do you do a lot of corporate productions?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so, often as a freelancer.
Okay, so in those productions, is the client providing the Zoom delivery?
Oh, that's a sore subject for me because I just went through one large corporate customer, namely 3M, was the end client, and they were the account owners of the Zoom accounts that were used, and that posed a real issue because they chose a platform called SpotMe, and that they wanted to stream it to. That was going to be their general audience location, which was all internal, and so, streaming out of Zoom, and we covered a ton of that, a week or so ago here in the Zoom Test Kitchen, the weakness of it, You can't multi-spotlight. I mean, oh my gosh, it's just a friggin' nightmare. But you can't even start the stream if you're not the account owner of the Zoom account. You're not just hosts. They can't just give you hosts. That doesn't work. You have to have the credentials to the account, because what does it want to do? When you want to start it, it wants to pop up the web browser into the account, authenticate, so you can give it the RTMP information. And so that was like problem number one. And, I had shared ahead of time with some folks that that's going to be a problem. And sure enough, it became a problem. But then the next thing was some of the sessions wanted polls. I mean, they're sending me poll questions. I can't put in the polls. That has to be the account owner also. So it really handcuffs you a lot because their expectations, they don't know the rules, And then the other is, it might be what you were talking about initially, is the resolution, the quality of the deliverable, and and that's based on whatever kind of account they've got, and what, has anybody made the effort to get 720 or 1080 out of it? Who knows, and so there's just so many things. I certainly prefer when I have the opportunity, I can I can provide a 1080 webinar to attendees account for anybody for a fee. There's no different than me providing vMix or anything else. It's part of what's in my tool bag. Will it be a line item? Yeah, it'll be a line item. It's a HD Zoom experience, and I'll provide that accordingly. So, you know, and that doesn't, you know, I'm not selling Zoom accounts or reselling Zoom accounts. It is, you know, I'm letting you use my tool bag, if you will, and one of those is a HD level experience in your delivery. It, you know, on the flip side, I'm kind of blown away at how many people don't care about this crappy resolution, and is really like, wow. And I think the reason a lot don't care is because they've never seen anything different when they're in a Zoom meeting. And when you're in the gallery, it doesn't matter. But when you're broadcasting, you know, where it matters the most, where it becomes the most noticeable, is when you're an attendee in a webinar, because I, the host, will spotlight the speaker, and that will be big. Like that, you don't have a choice in that. I'm gonna make it big, and that's where 360 falls to pieces, right? But that's the default resolution to webinar attendees. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, that blows me away that that's the default experience. So I just, I sit back and go, you know, the default should at least be 720, because Zoom should care about their image. Like, if they don't think that experience, that crappy visual experience in a full screen webinar doesn't reflect on them, they're crazy. I mean, it absolutely reflects on them, their tool, and their delivery, and why folks would have to go to extra lengths for 720 makes very little sense to me. The extra length for 1080, I get it, but the extra length for 720, I don't know why they would allow. It's kind of like putting out like half-baked marketing, you know? Like, why would you pay all these marketing people to put out that garbage that they keep putting out, right? I mean, it's a bit of what's happening. So, I usually don't have really bad things to say, but that one in particular, I think, is a really poor choice, and it may be, you know, way more of a technical, you know, bandwidth infrastructure issue than I, you know, can come close to realizing, but they've had about a year to deal with it, and they've boomed as a company, and their numbers are showing it, and, you know, their performance has been great. I think it's stellar, but I think that image is bad.
All you got to do is watch CNN for half an hour and see how much, you know, resolution and good audio doesn't, you know, I mean, their producers aren't demanding that people get decent kits. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of filtering from that. I think one of the reasons why we're so sensitive to it, quite honestly, is because we watch Office Hours every day, and we've been able to see that evolution of, and see the difference that good audio and good video makes. So.
Yeah, well, one of the sessions I managed earlier this week, they had about 600 people in the meeting, and it was sales training.
Was it a meeting? Just to
it
clarify.
it was a meeting, and it was sales training, and it was, you know, it was all about. I mean, every once in a while, someone would chime in, but not often, but you know, I mean, the 5% of the cameras were on. I mean, you know, it was meant to be interactive, and we had to actually put in a special request for 100 breakout rooms, and so we got that done, and because they did it 3 times, you know, okay, go out, and this is your project when you get to the breakout room, and we sent, you know, 600 people out to 100 breakout rooms, and left them there for, you know, 6 to 8 minutes, and they came back, and it worked really, really well, actually, better than I think it used to, and pretty quick. It was pretty quick for the number of people that got moved. It was pretty darn impressive how quickly they disappeared. But the trainers, and there's a sales training company called Integrity Solutions. Big training company for sales and virtual sales in particular was, a lot of this focus. I was like, are you kidding me? It would be like, I mean, the content was fine. It was actually good and useful and all, but they showed up with these, half-baked cameras, piss-poor lit environments, oh my gosh, I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you guys should be the two most polished in the entire room, in a set with, whether it's a green screen or not, I don't care about the green screen so much, but, a nicely lit environment. I mean, it was just like, wow, you're killing me. My saying is, our new three-piece suit is audio, video, and cameras, right? And it's nuts when, I mean, kind of shameful in the sense that they're literally delivering how to, do this better. And, it's like having a keynote come, jump up on stage in front of 10,000 people in a freaking pair of shorts and sandals, right? I mean, you just don't do that. And so, yeah, it really kind of takes me back, like, the lack of investment. And they actually referenced that they sent kits out to all these attendees, kits like light ring and a webcam, and I don't know what kind of webcam they sent, but by many indications, they weren't implementing it themselves, or maybe if they were, not very well. Like the one gal I had to move, she had a super bright, two bright windows behind her. And I said, is there any chance you have shades on those windows? She goes, oh, the shades are already pulled. And so we rotated her towards the fireplace instead, which helped a lot, but there were still glimpses of two other windows, but not nearly as bad as the first two. And you just kind of think, after all this time, people would care, let alone they'd know how to fix it, and it's a bit mind-blowing to me that
especially for that large, a big event like that many people.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's it's one of those things, like if I brought this,
I probably have done 200 recordings over the last year remote for on demand, and I must spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes getting people set up, moving them around there. These are all homes, moving them around their home, finding a location, propping up laptops, and I've trained them beforehand. You cannot pay someone to use a wired internet connection these days.
No, even if you send them a cable, they just don't want to run it, but I mean, I've never done this in the kitchen before, but I'm going to show my messy office. I mean, you guys all know it. You're in the business. I mean, what you can make look decent in a messy environment, it gets worse. but and then my hung gray. This is one of those pop-ups that clip on a frame, really lightweight aluminum frame, normally for portrait headshots. But I put it on an extra long curtain rod, and I mean, when you stand back and look at everything, it's all ugly. Black gaffer's tape is closing up the seams of my white poster board that's covered up my my windows because they were so stinking bright. I just couldn't adjust things. And but when you get right down to it, it's the shot is this. That's the shot. That's all you need. for decent presentation and, you know, and clarity. I mean, I'm not saying everybody has to go spend, and I did not spend, jumping into this business earlier last year, I did not go buy this camera and lens. I was lucky enough to already have it because I loved photography, and I had just recently, just several months before, got rid of one of my DSLRs. I think it was 7D maybe, and went to this EOS R. But this makes a ton of difference. There's no question. You know, either a Brio, you know, in the webcam category, or a Sony, or Canon. But you know, this lens and body's probably what, 4,000, somewhere between 4,000 and 4,500 bucks together, right? And that's certainly not a requirement by any stretch. But some of the key level execs who really understand how valuable their image is, they'll have no problem dropping that kind of change to look incredible. But it's not until they see it, you know, like, can it really look that good on Zoom? You guys are seeing it. It looks pretty dang crystal clear, right? I mean, it's and once they know it can be done, they'll do it in a heartbeat. So, anyways, it's fun. It'll be really interesting to see, you know, where people settle. You know, like, I mean, you take the opportunity. Like, corporations in general, they are not going to want to give up virtual, because all of them have had much larger audiences than they ever had at physical events. And they did it at an absolute fraction of the price. And they didn't have to, you know, pay for their own travel and expenses and all that, and their sales teams and engineering teams and all that jazz. Tons of money saved. But so many of them are approaching it in this hybrid thought fashion, and you know, let's go back to live. Why, you know, I mean, truly. And, oh, well, we're going to keep the virtual. Well, that's a double stupid why, because now you've just added a percentage of cost to the given multi-million-dollar type investment that you used to do 2 years ago and before. Now you've added and made that more expensive, because now you want to do it two different ways. And the fact is, combining it just really doesn't work. I mean, you know, Ed Willick said it, and I didn't really get it when he said it. I don't know that I really actually agreed, but I do now. And as late as, like, you know, he says, well, they do hybrids for NFL and MLB, and, you know, and stock car racing, right? Big racing, NASCAR and stuff like that. I mean, and it's true on these big events. Those are absolutely and have been hybrid events, and you think about that, and
explain how it's a hybrid event. Forgive me.
Because there's a TV audience, and there's 70,000 people at the event watching the game or the race or whatnot, right? But the fact is I mean, just one quick, easy question is the broadcast team doing anything that the in-person audience gives a damn about or is even aware of? And the answer is no. The live event in person has absolutely nothing, almost nothing. There's certain things, flag ceremony, you know, the song, things like that. You know, the starting line, everybody wants to see that live and on the TV. But then there's this whole different production that's live. You know, the audience, you know, 70,000, 90,000 race fans don't hear what the TV color commentators are saying. Right? I mean, they're not the ones announcing in the park. And so it's just this whole diversion. And that's what it takes. I think that's truly, if you're going to have a successful hybrid event, you're going to have a mega church who literally has a production team doing color commentary behind the stage that nobody even knows is happening, but it's maybe those transition moments, or there's discussions for the remote audience that while they're taking a coffee break. I don't know, you know, but I think it really is a bit of the willingness to create dual productions. I don't know that that's the ideal. I think that makes a hybrid, at least at the level of maybe acceptable, if the organizations willing to pay more because it's going to cost more. But I think the ideal, especially financially, is to scale down your live events and increase your virtual presence so that you can get those, unlimited by geographics, finances, all those things of people who can reach it. And then the whole replay part of it, right? Play on demand after the event has even passed. You get like everybody, possible that can attend today, next week, next year. I mean, the replayability is huge. So, I mean, I think the real value on even recorded Zoom test kitchens, not that we're anything big, but the replay count it always kills the number of people who are in the meeting, especially over time. So why wouldn't an organization buy off on spending more on the virtual delivery, knowing that the replay count is going to be so much longer lasting and a bigger impact and so forth than the live event, which disappears the moment the event's over, and you go, oh no, we can capture it. Well, you better capture something good. You better put some good money and planning into it, because that's what's going to be the lasting memory, is the replay. So
I was doing hybrid events for like 12 years before, before COVID. And in a lot of cases, I was doing live concerts, and then we had an IMEG team that was doing IMEG specific camera work specifically for the IMEG screens. Like we weren't really recording it. We would record it and give a copy to the artist or whatever. But I don't think it's too much of. I don't think it would be too much of a stretch for us to add a couple more pieces of content, maybe like a pre-show interview, or add different things throughout and make it a better experience. But it's so I'm not sure that I agree that it can't be. Hybrid events aren't a lot more easily done than within the confines of what people are already doing than having to create a whole new thing. Because there was a lot of that going on. There's a lot of equipment out there that add a streamer to the end of it, and you're sending it out to wherever you need to send it out to.
Yeah, I think right now I just ask a question. This is, how much planning for the virtual side of the event has been put into place? How much has been invested in the virtual side of the event beyond putting Johnny in the back of the room with his iPhone? I mean, I think that's a fair place to begin. That says, did you just pay? Couldn't you have just put Johnny in the back of the room with an iPhone instead of pay that production company to put 3 expensive iPhones in the back of the room? Truly, that's what some people think the virtual audience deserves, is just put cameras in the room and take an audio feed out, and this program that we're doing live is exactly what the audience wants from home. And I just don't think most events don't provide that as a good experience at all. When you can, I think there's a lot of, pastors and leaders, like that are energetic and super engaging, and maybe there's nothing better than, being in person. Well, guess what? That philosophy's out the window. That energetic person who people are naturally kind of magnetized to, they probably had to learn how to do that, but they learned how to master that over the last year and a quarter during COVID. And they did it over the camera, into a lens, and into people's homes. And so they can do it, but can they do that? Can they pay attention and engage with those people in front of them at the same time those, hundreds or thousands of people are watching them over the internet? And the answer is no. One human can't do that. It can be fun to watch, but are you really engaged? Are you back on a stage? Or are you right there talking to them? You can't do both at the same time. you can be entertaining, you can get a good score, but when you really compare, like, here's a production for remote and here's a production for live, and just capture them both with professionals putting those two together, you begin to realize, there really is a difference, and that was a stellar experience either way, but they weren't the same. Might have been the same message, but the way it was messaged and delivered, and it just changes, So the camera angles, Ed and I were talking a few weeks back, and he said it would be fun. It'd be fun to have take a Tony Robbins event or a church event or whatnot, and to truly have a like a hybrid that works, and to take go steal that row 1 seat number 5 chair and put a cameraman's butt in it, and the cameraman's camera is on the visor of his hat, so that you get the hands clapping, you get the nods, I mean, like it's a first-person experience, and that becomes a camera cut every once in a while. I mean, it was some very creative, it takes that kind of, I think that creative thinking and application that, like, that camera cut would never belong on an AgMag wall, for instance, but it's a perfect cut for a remote audience to really feel like, you're kind of there, and you're feeling the emotion, because that represents that first person emotion. And so just, I mean, there's tons. I mean, I'm not telling like a whole story. It's just thoughts just keep coming and coming and coming, and it'll be interesting to see, and then there's our responsibility too. Like, how challenged are virtual only folks who have like fully embraced it, fully invested in it, and that's what we do. Like, from this day forward, we're live virtual event producers. How challenged are we going to be by the live event people who got stung hard? I think, Mike, you were one of them, weren't you? Got stung hard overnight, right? Lost everything. All this equipment's been sitting in warehouses for over a year doing next to nothing. They had to retool and learn how to do what, so then the question is, was that just a Band-Aid so that they, no offense, Mike, but was that a Band-Aid to simply, be the responsible father, provider, get some income? Or was it a full investment that they're really damn good at what they do now, so now when they offer both services, they're perfectly qualified? Or if it was just a Band-Aid, will they actually become our competition in the selling process of, no one cares about virtual anymore, so they're kind of selling against, or they weren't fully invested into their quality of the work that they brought into, just in hopes that live comes back soon enough. And so they're still maybe not the right party for it. They're great at live. They're great at everything live, but maybe they're never really got great at virtual and streaming and all the math around it and so forth. And they should pair up with somebody who's dedicated to that with them, or do they downsell it, And I'm not dogging on anybody in particular. I'm just talking just reality. I mean, I favor virtual, definitely, but it's certainly not a standalone solution. I mean, there's live. Bring concerts into the conversation. It's a whole different game. Of course, I want to be at concerts again. I mean, there's no doubt. I love the environment, the energy, the music, everything about it. And so there's certain types of live events that definitely deserve to be back and be back strong and so forth. But, it's still, by all appearances, is going to be a while out, because all these numbers are rising again with the variants of this virus and so forth. So that, that's a problem. So
Live Nation invested heavily in live streaming. So now I think the biggest problem in that end, in the concert end, is that part of what people are buying is the exclusivity of that event. And if I can see Sting or whoever, in a live stream, then am I going to go when he's in my city? Or maybe it opens it up and it allows more people to attend. But I don't see like 40 venues in 40 markets all being able to offer a live stream of their concert to an audience, because that's just going to be too redundant, and it's going to take away some of what makes show business special, and that people will realize that, oh, well, they just do the same thing every night, and it's literally like insert Wichita, Kansas instead of Detroit, Michigan.
Well, that's why the live stream of the in-person event doesn't work, because the in-person event is regionalized, and so it's just like, who's going to watch it remotely more than once? But if you go, oh, okay, so here's the one recording of their live concert, but every night, every show, they give the opportunity to as far as a business conversation, to sell more tickets. Well, sell more tickets to what and for what? Well, exactly what's been happening over the last year and a half is, these big names had to step down a few rungs on the ladder and humble themselves enough to meet me, the fan, on a Zoom. But me, the fan, had to become willing to actually value that virtual connection and conversation with the superstar enough to pay for it. Now, you might not be paying $1,500 for a live backstage pass. Maybe you're paying $150 to $250 for this Zoom get-together, right? But I, the consumer, have agreed that, there's enough value there, because there aren't any other choices. I mean, I can't go get a backstage pass these days because those live events and opportunity, or maybe there's live events, but the bands aren't inviting people to be face to face because of we're coming out of this whole virus crush, right? And so they'll go stand on a stage and perform, but they won't be shaking hands in a room in the back, right? And so I think the opportunity to create something that literally can only be delivered virtually, such as those meet and greets, and it's limited, like why would they do it every night or every concert? Well, because there's only 30, 35, 40 people allowed in one of those meetings at a time. And so I think there's definitely an opportunity, because, all of a sudden you got people, there's zero boundaries on the internet, right? Like anybody can pay that, $150, Zoom backstage pass, if you will, from anywhere. And so I think that's what becomes special, and you keep it limited to the number of people, and that's why you can do it time and time and time again. The challenge is going to be the stars probably don't want to do that, because it might get tiresome, might get bored. I don't know. There's got to be enough money there.
They have to work out is the publishing and all the intellectual copyright.
Because
everybody's going to need to get paid. The songwriters are going to need to get paid. The copyright holders are going to need to get paid. That's the first thing that they're going to have to work out. But there will be where I think it will come in is say specialty stuff like. An artist wants to do an unplugged show, but doesn't necessarily want to do a whole unplugged tour. They go in, they produce something, they open it up live, they open it up after the fact. Maybe it's open to fan club members, things like that. I think I don't know if I told you this story, Jeff, but the first time that I ever really figured out the power of streaming was I was doing a legal event. It was a court case, or it was a disciplinary case. Anyways, it was very court-like, and I had to bring in 3 expert witnesses, one from Dubai, one from Vancouver, and one from Kitchener. And those 3 people didn't want to fly to where the hearing was being held. It was too much, it would have taken up too much of their time. So we figured, we used Zoom at the time. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. And, I set it up. I did a couple of webcams. I mic'd everybody in the room. And it worked great. And that was, I think that's where the impetus of this technology is going to be used is in people that are trying to save time or trying to have an experience that they otherwise wouldn't do, like wouldn't travel to, wouldn't get off the couch to go see, things like that. And it's going to have to be done at a pretty reasonable price point.
Well, and there's major wins there though too. I mean,
absolutely,
speakers and big names, high dollar folks and things like that you couldn't book before, you could now book because they're doing virtual. Their availability is like 3 times more than it used to be, because that day before for travel, the day after for travel, and the day of their speaking engagement, now they've freed those other 2 days up, or even they can do 2 engagements a day or whatever, and so their availability
about 6.
What's that?
I think Seth Godin's doing like 4 to 6 a day.
Yeah,
doing keynotes and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I just think there's
bookshelf.
There's lots of good from it. I mean, I've heard some speakers are adjusting their prices, some aren't. I think they'd be wise to adjust them if they knew they could be, in demand enough, to know that volume outweighs that high margin. Because then they could be booked more often. But I get it just the same. Some people are like, hey man, I only want to do this many engagements a year, period. I can live off of that happily, and this needs to be the price. And they don't want to be that busy. Just because they can be doesn't mean they should be or have to be. But those who really want to go for 2 years strong and build a lot of bank and so forth, I think it would be good to make themselves, attractive, price-wise, availability-wise, and the whole bit. And I think there's a lot of good from it as well. So, well, I've got to run, boys.
Thank you,
Always good
Jeff.
to connect. Just kind of friendly, open discussion. I kept the stream going, so it'll be in the archives. I don't think there's anything that shouldn't be necessarily, just friendly discussion about things that we're all, concerned with and thinking about, and a lot of people thinking about it, that's for sure. watching close, if not being pretty heavy influencers on it. So good discussion. Good to see you, Mike. It's been a long time. But
see you too, Jeff. I've been doing I've had a lot of some personal stuff going on, and I've been building this studio out, so I'll be able to stop in more often.
Very cool. Well, we're going to roll out of here like we usually do, with a few slides and some music for the stream anyways.
Yeah.
But we'll see you next week, guys.
Good meeting you, Mike. Bye, Jeff.
You too. Take care, Bill. Bye. Bye, Jeff.